Hey kids, today we're taking a look at the Asmus Toys Lord of the Rings Smeagol Gollum luxury set. It's luxury because it comes not only with Gollum and Smeagol, which were sold separately, but also the interactive exclusive diorama. It's interactive in that you can place the figure on it. Other than that, it doesn't really do anything. It's a rock in a little pond, but it looks nice. Great way to display one of them. We'll take a look at the boxes real quick here. There's a nice embossed hands, Smeagol's hands holding the ring. And on Gollum, it's more, grasping the ring like in the final scene of Return of the King. And the rock is a pretty straightforward diorama box with just foam inside. But nice presentation. Very thin boxes. So we'll take everything out of the box, we'll lay it all out, and we'll see if this is going to be our precious on the shelf. All right, we got everything out of the box. Here it is. And if it looks like you're looking at a mirror image, you're not. These are both figures, Gollum, Smeagol, and they both come with exactly the same stuff. The only difference is the head sculpt. The evil Gollum yelling head sculpt and the more subdued Smeagol head sculpt. That's it. And of course, in the middle we have the diorama, which we'll take a closer look at later. I don't know why Asmus decided to do two separate figures as opposed to one figure with the two head options, which for me would have been fine. I don't know. I got them both, so I'll probably display them both somehow. Maybe one on a Hobbit display and the other one on the Lord of the Rings display. We'll see. I guess if you're a completist and you want both of them, that's great. They were $130 separately, $270 for the luxury set, which you get the dial. So it's $10 for this dial, which I think is worth it. It's nice. But if you only need one of these, if you just need representation on your shelf for Gollum or Smeagol, I would almost say, depending on your taste, I would go with Gollum for $130. You've got everything, even the ring is the same. I just had that in the hand there. But so you've got 2 1 rings, which would have been a real problem in Middle-earth. So let's take a look at everything that's here. We'll take a look at the bodies in a minute. I'm just going to point out the pieces that we've got. And again, all the same on both sides. This is the eye rolling system controller. So you put that on the peg on the eye and you move that around. I'm going to get into some details on that in a little while. Hands. You've got a variety of hands. They're all nicely detailed. Asmus does some good paint, I got to say. There's even veins in here that you can see. So really nice. And you've got the ring holding hand again. And it does hold the ring. These are kind of a rubbery. You can see how just rubbery they are, but you can get the ring in there if you get it right. I'm going to drop it. You don't want to ever drop this thing because there we go. There you go. You've got the ring holding, which is good. That's nice. It's nice to have. Swap that out because this has already got the ring. You got a pointing finger to point at Samwise. Call him filthy. You got a pair of kind of clawing, grabbing, scary hands. And then I've got these hands over here. These are kind of the only gripping hands he has. And these hold the fish really well. This is probably the tightest grip he's got. It is the tightest grip he's got. So that's not really going to hold the sword terribly well. But yeah, it does hold the fish well. Speaking of the fish, nicely detailed fish. And again, if you get the luxury set, you'll have 2 fish. But not blue fish. These are alternate legs. So these just pop onto the pelvis joint, the barbell, and they pop on pretty easily. You might want to heat them up a little bit, this part, and then pop it on. They pop off. The regular legs pop off pretty easily. I did feel that this was a little loose on the feet. We'll take a look at that later when we do a shot, because I'm going to be using these legs for that. But those are nice. They go on easily. The feet pop onto there easily. This is a neck adapter if you want his neck to be a little more extended and kind of outwards and bent down the way he kind of was hunched over. And this actually works really well. When we go take a look at the bodies, I'll explain to you why I like this, and I'll probably be replacing the neck peg that's in there now with this one. Let's take a quick look at the dial here. Nicely done. Some detail in here. It looks like a rock. It's cool all the way around. You got a little bit of wetness down here and some moss. And then you got this little bit of, murky pond area down here with a fish in there floating around. So you can see that sort of, he's in there. And the water kind of comes up, the resin, the clear resin or whatever comes up a little bit. So, I mean, listen, this was $10. On the shelf, I think that's going to be a nice display piece for him. So I think that's worth $10 if you're going to get the two anyway. Let's take a look at Gollum. So here's let's take a look at both the head sculpts. So the difference is you've got Gollum here with the snarling open mouth, which is nicely done. I think could have used a little bit more of a wash around the eyes. And I do think that the nose is a little too pointy. If you look at some reference photos, I think they got the ears right. They got the head shape done pretty well, but the nose looks a little too pointy. It was a little more blunt at the end, a little more rounded, but it's not terrible. It's a little bit better on Gollum. There's a reason his eyes are bugged out like this, or at least looking down like that. I'll show you that, but this is a little more closed mouth. This is Smeagol looking confused and, saying we can't hurt Master. But I think they did a great job with the shape. There it is.
Nobody likes you.
Bodies are good. Let's take a look at one of them very close by itself. So we'll take a look at Gollum here. So this is all rubberized. The torso is rubberized. These are seamless arms. They go up to about there without popping off the joint. If you push them any further, they're going to definitely pop off the joint. You could get them up there, but they will pop. The arms bend about. I wouldn't go any further than that. In fact, the instructions say don't go any further than 90 degrees because, as with all seamless arms, they can tear if you go too far. Standard hand pegs. You can kind of get the hand over the top of them to hide it a little bit better. It's not bad. It gives a seamless effect. With all these rubber bodies, they always have this sort of bulb at the wrist for some reason. I guess that's where it kind of covers up the receptacle for the hand. But I don't know why that can't be a little thinner. It seems to be universal on these types of bodies. I don't know why it can't be a little more tapered, but it isn't. So it is what it is. So that's that. The body, torso, you can get a little twist, but you're going to get a little weirdness there. I mean, you can take it to there, and it kind of doesn't look too weird. But the torso doesn't really move. You might be able to move this rubber piece around it a little bit, so you can get a little turn, not too much. Bend is pretty good. Like you can get a bend, and if you tuck in the rubber a little bit the right way, it kind of gives that impression of a rib cage over a distended belly or whatever. It's not too bad. But you naturally you're going to get a few wrinkles there or something like that. But backwards, he doesn't go too far back because again, this is just a one piece seamless body. Take a look at the back. He's got the spine kind of sticking out there. It's nicely detailed. I mean, I think it's well constructed, and everything matches pretty well. The arm colors with the body colors with the leg colors. He's got his loincloth. This seems pretty secure. You can adjust it a little bit. It's tied on this side. He is anatomically correct for some reason. I don't know what the purpose of that was, but he has this little, crotch piece that goes from the belly around the back, and he's got his little precious there. So I'm not going to show you that, but that's there. Outwards, the legs can go just below 90 degrees. He's not going to, actually 90 degrees. He's not going to be doing a lot of karate kicks, but actually could. That's not too bad. They go forward about 90 degrees. They go backwards. I think you got a little glimpse of Little Smeagol there. And I think they could probably go back a little bit further than that, but I'm not going to push it any further than that. Again, the knees bend about 90 degrees. They can go further, but they say not to go past like 60 up in here, and I wouldn't even try really past too much past 90 for any extended period of time. The ankles are a little bit better. They taper a little bit better, but there's more of a wide receptacle on the foot to accept that. So it does look pretty good looking at it straight on. But the trade-off there is you don't get too much of a rock and you don't get much forward-backward movement. These are also very soft. So, you get a little play, if you're standing on an irregular surface, I guess. But they're pliable, but they're going to spring back into position. So you're not going to get too much give there. But it's enough. I think it's enough to get this. And they're a little more flexible on these legs here. They move around a little bit more to get him balanced a little bit better, I think. But overall, pretty good. Now let's take a look at the head. This is really where I have the most issues. So this does have movable eyes. Like I said, I'll show you that mechanism in a bit. I just want to go around. I do want to show some of the detail here. The veins and stuff are really nicely detailed. Two main problems I have with this. Three main problems I have with this sculpt. The hair. Now on the prototype, this looked like the way it was sort of set up. There was little points where the hair, and that's pretty much how his hair was. It was in patches. It was all over. But the hair itself is a little straighter, and I realize we're not dealing with real hair with real weight or anything like that, so I can forgive that. But it's completely gray on this one. Now, Smeagol's a little darker, but not as dark as it should be. It's not black hair. And that is disappointing. Because you're supposed to be able to see this, and the way it kind of fluffs around, he looks a little more like, he's got Yoda hair than he's got, the hair that he's supposed to have, which is supposed to be stringy and black and, wet and stuff. So that's a little disappointing. Disappointment number 2 is the seam back here. Now, I understand, it's better than having a seam over the top. I get that, but I understand that, you need to have like a separation so you can get the mechanics inside there and then close it up. But it's better on Smeagol, I will say that. The cover up, seems to be a little more hair on Smeagol for some reason too. But you can see less of the seam there. But this just has a big old gap. And I don't know if that's the way they glued it. Or if it's an error on the piece or something like that. I don't know. But that's, for me, they sent me this. So, I'm not going to complain about it. But if you paid for this, and I actually did pay for one. So I have one that I paid for the coming. I hope it doesn't look like this. That's all I'm going to say. That's disappointing. All right. Number 3 issue with the head. And overall, again, they look great. I think the sculpts are pretty good. When you get the eyes into certain positions, it really looks good. If the eyes are too blue, in some scenes, they did so much color grading in that movie that they looked a little more hazel, a little more gray. But then there's others that they look really blue. So here's the mechanics inside there for the purrs. So you would take this tool, pop it inside, and pop it over the peg in there like that, and then you could move the eye around. Now it's a little kludgy, a little tricky to do, but it does work. Okay, so that's fine. Here's the problem. Let's take a look at where that magnet is in comparison to those pegs. That is just barely clearing those pegs. I don't know why these pegs needed to be that long. They're very long, and they could have been a lot shorter. I'm trying to get that on camera. I think you can see that. So this has to go in, and this is what I was experiencing. I'm pretty sure it'll happen. We'll find out. I'm putting it inside. Yeah, see that eye? That eye just dumped right down. Now he's all googly-eyed. So getting that past that is a real trick. You can do it, but it doesn't always work. That's really annoying, especially when you get your eyes in the position you want them in, and then you try to get that in, and it just pops them out. So I did figure this out, though. This part comes off, this straight peg, and then you have this bent peg, okay? And what you do is that just pops onto this ball joint. It's not easy, but it does pop on. There we go. And then it goes up like that. So that's how it sits. And this seems to be a little less, you can see how it even tapers away a little bit. This seems to be, you can hook that in there towards the back and get that magnet on there, and the magnet actually hits and it doesn't touch it at all. And this, I feel, looks great, and I feel looks more like Gollum. I'm going to be leaving these on. I don't see a need to have that other one on there, and it does kind of the same thing. Yes, you can't have him sort of looking straight with a straight neck, but how often did he ever do that? He was constantly, bent over, hunched over, and just looking, like this. So, that's Smeagol. That's Gollum. I don't see any real need for this particular peg, and I probably won't be putting that on ever. That's going to go in the box and never to be seen again. So that's an overview. A few issues with the head. Overall, I think it looks really good. I think the proportions are decent. So let's get everything off the table here. Clear this off. I will do a setup, and we'll get shooting.
Follow me.
Okay, I've got this all set up now, so let's take a look at this. I'm going to be talking more about the setup and the use of some practical effects than I am about the lighting and the bounce cards this time. I've got plenty of videos. If you've watched any of the other ones, you know. I talk a lot about bounce cards. I'll touch on them here, but then I really want to talk about the set and the pieces that I use there. So starting out, I've got this softbox up here, which is usually my ambient light. Now this is not a gel anymore. I picked up this newer RGB light. It's the CB60 RGB LED studio light, and this has been fantastic. I know not everybody has softboxes or the room for them, but if you do, highly recommend this. You can dial it up to any color that you want. Saturation, brightness, it's really nice and bright, really, really nice light. The other thing I have going on here is a Lume Cube. This is kind of my key light here on Gollum that's giving that sort of godlight, cavern light. There's light coming through a crack somewhere in this cavern, and that's what's causing that. And that has a filter in it, a diffuser, and of course the barn door is there to kind of keep it focused. And then I've got the RGB light over here dialed up to a very light blue, and that's not even facing the set. That's bouncing off reflector, bounce card, and that's providing some rim light for Gollum, a little bit for Frodo in the background there, but Frodo is very much supposed to be a background figure. You'll see him, but you won't see him very clearly. So let's talk about this set. You can see this tray here. So this is like a serving tray that we picked up somewhere, and it was black. We stopped using it, so I kind of absconded with it. And I've used this for, I'll show you a shot here that I did with Dark Knight Batman and Joker. And it's about a ½ inch deep. You can fill it up with water. It looks very dark and deep pool of water. So when I started this out, I really expected that I was going to use actual water for the pool of water that he's, fishing in here, grabbing the fish from. When I set up the angle, set up the shot, and got it more refined, I found that you didn't even see the water below him all that much. So if it was still water, even if I stirred it up a little bit, probably weren't going to see it all that much. It probably wasn't going to read as water. So I really wanted something to look more like, a flowing pool, because there is a waterfall in the scene. And that brings me to what I did use for water. Water is, it's a cellophane, it's a Glad press and seal. That's what it is. So this is press and seal, and it reads pretty well when you crunch it up and pull it apart a little bit. You can see it sticks to itself as well. So you got to kind of, play with it, pull it apart, crunch it up. When this is out of focus, either near or far from your lens, and depending on your depth of field, it really reads as water. So I had this set up, and I'm like, okay, I like the way that's looking. And then I was going to skip the waterfall, honestly, or maybe use a digital background, but I really didn't want to use a digital background for that much of the scene. There's going to be a lot of background in here, and I don't generally like to use just, a backdrop for more than 30% of a shot. I like to try and do as much practical as I can, but I tried this, and I'm like, I think this could actually work. And crunching it up and actually clinging it to this wall. This wall is a terrarium backdrop, I believe. It's something that you can put in like a tank if you've got a lizard for a pet or something, and they can climb on it, or maybe it's just decorative, I don't know. I've used this for ground cover for a bunch of shots. A Frank Frazetta reproduction shot that I did. And I've used it for walls. I just recently used it for a Four Horsemen shot for the Sphexian Miner in the background. And this was going to be my cave wall. I took the wrap, crunched it up a little bit, and it actually kind of clings a little bit to the wall. I'll tell you, on camera and out of focus, it worked. It really, really worked. So that was a fortuitous, I wouldn't say accident, but just a byproduct of using this stuff. So that's that. That's the water. Again, the rocks, real rocks. I do, have some styrofoam rocks. They're not all that big, and I just like I like kind of the realism of the way these look, chipped up. The issue comes when you want to put a bunch together and make it look like one sort of rock formation. What helps is I've used some of this moss. Now this is just, it's called underbrush. It's a model railroading from Woodland Scenics material that you can use for trees and bushes and stuff like that. And it's just I don't know if it's like a foam. Don't know what it's made out of. But anyway, it's great stuff. To use as ground cover, or here I've used it as sort of moss on the rocks without having to paint the rocks or put anything on them. And this, I've just filled in some of the gaps between the rocks to kind of give them more of a bridge and make it feel like it's more a bunch of connected rocks. I even wet this down a little bit. The spray bottle, just a spray bottle of water. And that helps to sort of crunch them down a little bit to make it look like it's more like a low mat of moss. I also use the water right on the rock here, and quite frankly, I will spray the figure as well, including the fish and his hands. Listen, it's plastic. He's not really wearing much in the way of clothing except this loincloth, which I don't really care. I've wet treated 1/6 figures before with robes, Jedis, and stuff like that to get the robes to cling better. So water's not really going to hurt anything. So after the shoot, I decided to use some of my favorite action figure hair tamer Dax wax to try to organize these strands of hair, and I think it worked pretty well. If I decided to color or dye the hair, I think it's going to look even better, but I know most people don't want to go to that trouble on a new $200 figure, so I'll be grading this with how it was out of the box. So let's talk about the good and the not so good. I think they did a good job with the body. This is an all new custom body that had to be produced specifically for this figure. While I would have loved to had a fully seamless upper body, I don't think you would have gotten the range out of it, and the shoulders would have been a little weird. I think the proportions are generally good. Maybe the torso could have been a bit longer, but it's hard to say. He was bent over a lot. I would have liked a little more muscle definition, especially on the legs, though. The hand options are good, and I like the material they're made out of. The luxury version's Dio. The Rock is definitely worth $10 if you're getting both figures anyway. I covered the hair and the neck connector eye controller thing, but the alternate neck connector solves those issues and I think looks really good. Sculpts could have used a little more detail, maybe some dark wash under the eyes, maybe a dark wash overall. Eye color might need to be lighter, but color grading in the film makes that harder to determine too, so I think they look pretty good. So overall, despite a few things, I like this. It poses very well, and it's worth the asking price for the set, I think. 130 isn't bad if you just want one. I'm going to push it just over the 7 mark and give it an 8 out of 10. Guys, thanks for watching. Hit me with any questions about the figure or the photography in the comments. If you like this, hit the like button, subscribe for more figures and photos, and as always,
Keep shooting your toys.